Damn them all. Every single one of them who thought I'd never be more than a shadow. My name is Violet Spencer, 36, executive, overlooked daughter, and as of last month, owner of the family estate no one thought I could afford. What happens next? Let's just say, this summer's reunion won't end with group photos. My name is Violet Spencer. I'm 36 years old, Chief Strategy Officer at a financial corporation headquartered in Seattle. On paper, I've built a life most people would envy. Corner office on the 28th floor, multi-million-dollar accounts under my name, and a team that treats my words like gospel. But in my family, I'm still the shadow that trails behind everyone else. The failure child. The one who never quite fit the frame. Every June, like clockwork, they host the Spencer family reunion at the estate in Monterey Bay. The same place where I once believed life could be perfect. As a child, I thought it was magic. Huge wooden porches, sea breeze through linen curtains, the scent of lemons and sunscreen and garden roses. But over time, it stopped feeling like home. It became a shrine to a hierarchy I was never part of. This year, I thought it might be different. But that illusion shattered the moment I opened my inbox. Subject, don't forget, Spencer Family Gathering, Summer in Monterey, sent at exactly 9 a.m. Monday. From Erin Spencer, my eldest sister. The email tone was predictably cheerful, full of exclamation points, inside jokes, and fake warmth. If I hadn't known better, I might have believed they were all excited to see me. But I did know better, because for 7 years straight, I've never had a proper place to sleep at the reunion. Rooms are full, Violet? Maybe book something nearby? That's my mother's annual refrain, delivered with her classic faux concern. It never changes. That morning, I sat staring at the email while the city shimmered behind my office window. Glass, steel, ambition. Julia, my assistant, stepped in holding 2 espressos. Family reunion again? She asked, eyeing the frozen look on my face. I nodded. Let me guess, not enough rooms this year either? I laughed, a short, flat sound. Maybe this time Erin's daughter needs the entire East Wing to paint her emotions in silence. Julia rolled her eyes. Want me to block off the weekend and fake a client crisis? Tempting, but something in me couldn't just brush it off this time. Not like the years before, when I swallowed my pride, made the hotel booking and showed up anyway. Something inside me was tired of playing support staff in my own family. I glanced down at the sealed envelope resting near my keyboard. The official letter from the board confirming my promotion. Regional CEO for the entire Northwest Territory, effective July 1st, the role I had clawed toward for over a decade. And yet, they didn't know. Probably wouldn't ask. Maybe they'd mention Erin's new kitchen renovation instead. A soft buzz from my phone pulled me from my thoughts. A message from Olivia, my best friend from high school. Monterey again? Should I send emergency wine? I typed back. Send me a one-way ticket out of this family tree instead. She replied instantly. Just tell them already. Make them squirm for once. My fingers hovered over the screen. Should I? Would it matter? That was the real question. Would it ever matter to them? Before I could answer it, my phone lit up again. This time with Mom's name. I didn't pick up. I already knew what she'd say. Something syrupy. Something manipulative. Something like, Sweet Violet, I just don't want you to be uncomfortable. The roof's under renovation this year. Lily needs quiet for her art, you understand, don't you? And every year, I'd say yes. I'd nod into the phone with a forced smile. And I'd book a room like an outsider. But not this year. For the first time in a long time, my heart felt a flicker of something unfamiliar. Not resentment, not pain. Something like quiet joy. And also fear. Because I was about to do something they never expected. That night, I didn't answer Mom's call. Not because I was angry, but because I already knew the script. I could have recited it in my sleep. The same worn lines she'd been delivering for years. Sugar-coated concern masking exclusion. Violet, you know we love having you, but the house is just a bit full this year. Instead, I stood by the window of my apartment, 28 floors above a city that did make space for me. Below, the lights of Seattle shimmered like stars with ambition. I had carved out something real here. A life, a legacy. But still, that email sat in my mind like a pebble in a shoe. Why did it still sting? I poured myself a glass of wine, not to celebrate, not to forget, just to anchor myself. The scent of cherry and oak steadied me as I walked back to my desk and picked up the envelope. It was thick, weighty, a symbol of everything I had worked for. My name, Violet E. Spencer, embossed at the top. Executive Vice President, Pacific Northwest Region, effective July 1st. A promotion 10 years in the making. The result of countless late nights, market crises, and strategic pivots. And not a single person in my family knew. Would they even care? A strange heat rose in my chest. Not anger, exactly, but something rawer, something that made my throat tighten. I looked back at the email. That damned subject line in all caps. Don't forget family gathering. How could I forget? Every June it was the same dance. But this year I noticed something new. Something they hadn't meant to include. A PDF with the room assignments. I clicked. Just a casual layout until the very bottom. Violet, if attending, please consider booking an Airbnb nearby. We're at full capacity. Hope that's okay. Hope that's okay? I read that line 3 times. 3. It didn't matter that I negotiated mergers worth hundreds of millions, that I was about to oversee an entire region of the most competitive financial market in the country. To them, I was still the spare part. Still optional. Why did that one line feel like a punch to the ribs? I picked up my phone and called Olivia. She picked up on the first ring. Tell me you're finally snapping. I didn't even say hello. They sent the room list again. Everyone has a space, even the kids. Don't tell me. They added a note. Violet may want to book an Airbnb. There was silence. Then she muttered, I'm going to burn down that estate. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. It's not even the insult anymore. It's the expectation. They genuinely think I won't mind. Maybe they think you don't mind. That stopped me, my voice lowered. What if? I've trained them to think that, by always being fine, by never saying anything. She exhaled. Then untrain them. Violet, you don't owe them politeness anymore. You're not 12. I stared at the wine glass in my hand, my reflection warping in the red. Maybe she was right. After we hung up, I sat in silence, heart pacing faster than it should. I opened my laptop, pulled up my bookmarks, and clicked on a site I had saved months ago but never touched. California Coastal Real Estate Listings. Search filter. Monterey Bay. And there it was, near the top of the page. The Spencer Estate, price reduced. My breath caught in my throat. They were selling it? A click led me to the listing. A classic family property nestled on the cliffs of Monterey. Ocean views, wraparound porch. Roof requires repairs. Vacant. Vacant. They didn't even tell me. Did they think I wouldn't care? Or worse, did they think I couldn't afford it? The idea made something cold harden in my chest. Not rage, not ego, something sharper, resolve. I clicked on the property history, refinance details, loan balance, quiet desperation behind a facade of legacy. I picked up my phone again, this time not to call family. Laura? I said when my attorney answered groggily. I need you to activate the holding company we set up last year. Why? She asked, voice sleepy. I'm buying a house. Under your name? No, I said. Under the company. I don't want the name Violet Spencer anywhere near the paperwork. There was a pause. Then her voice sharpened. What house? I stared at the screen. The photos of the estate flicked by like memories. My 6th birthday on the porch. The bookshelf Dad built. The sun-drenched kitchen where I used to sneak cookies and wonder what it meant to be chosen. The house, I whispered. That house. 3 weeks later, it was done. I signed the contract from my Seattle office, a quiet Friday morning with my espresso still warm and the city just beginning to blink awake beneath gray skies. The agent from the bank barely blinked. So long as the funds cleared, they didn't care whose name was on the line, and mine wasn't. The holding company took care of that. Laura called me the moment the last digital signature processed. It's official, she said. You now own the Spencer estate. I didn't speak at first, just stared at the small silver key in my palm. Sharp edges, cold metal. Nothing special, except to me, it was everything. Not revenge. Restoration. This wasn't about proving a point. This was about reclaiming something that once made me feel like I belonged. Something they had slowly stripped from me with every ignored message, every missing seat at the table, every hope that's okay line shoved to the bottom of a cheerful group email. I didn't tell anyone, not Olivia, not Julia, not even Remy, my closest colleague. I simply filed the signed documents away, blocked my calendar for a 3-day executive wellness retreat, and booked a flight to Monterey Bay, timed to land 2 days before the family was scheduled to arrive. Let them walk into their tradition. I would be waiting. On the plane, somewhere above Oregon, I opened the portfolio tucked inside my leather bag, Hanley Corporation, stamped in silver. The merger had closed quietly that morning. A $400 million deal I led from the first meeting to the final clause. Brookwell's biggest acquisition in a decade. And I was the strategist behind every step. An offer letter sat inside. International Vice President, Asia Markets. Based in Singapore. A new post, a new world. I hadn't told a soul in my family. And that realization didn't ache like it used to. They never asked. They never really saw me. I checked my inbox. The latest reunion reminder had arrived 2 hours ago. From Aaron, of course. Hey fam, reminder, BBQ tent set up Friday afternoon. Aaron's kids will do the playlist this year. Violet, if you're coming, hope you found a nice Airbnb. The hotels get crowded fast. Of course. I closed the email and looked out the window. The ocean came into view. Monterey's cliffs hugging the coastline like they never forgot how to hold history. Somewhere down there was the house I used to believe would be mine someday. But I never imagined this was how it would happen. A part of me still asked, do I really belong? I shook the thought away. Belonging isn't something you wait to be granted. Sometimes you have to build it with your own hands, your own money, your own name on the deed, even if no one else claps. The car that picked me up at the airport was plain, no chauffeur, no attention, just me, my luggage and a quiet plan. When I arrived, the estate was smaller than I remembered, more worn. The paint peeled around the porch columns, the gate creaked, weeds pressed up against the side fence, and yet, something in me stirred. Not sorrow, not nostalgia. Ownership. I walked up the steps, each one echoing like a heartbeat from childhood. Inside, I didn't see ghosts. I saw opportunities. I opened the curtains wide. Let the sea light flood in. That evening I brewed coffee in the same kitchen where I once washed dishes alone while the others planned photo ops. I lit a candle on the porch. I watched the moon rise. This time I wasn't in the background. The next morning I laid out a folder on the living room table. The Reverend Hotel letterhead printed cleanly across the top. Inside, key cards, suite assignments, custom welcome notes. I had booked out the entire top floor. Their names, their comforts, all accounted for. Because I would be hosting. Not out of spite, but because power is best wielded quietly. And if they thought I was still the Violet who waited to be invited, they were in for a very different reunion. I looked around the room, one I once feared I'd never return to, and whispered to no one in particular. Welcome back, Violet. Saturday morning. The Monterey air was cool, kissed with salt and early fog. I woke early, brewed strong coffee, and sat on the front porch in silence. A calm before a storm. At 9:05 a.m. I heard it, the crunch of tires on gravel. First came Mom's silver SUV, then Aaron's Range Rover, polished and oversized. A few minutes later, Alex's latest girlfriend's sporty coupe, too red, too loud for the quiet road. They parked like they always did in a lazy triangle near the garage, blocking one another in. And like every year, they climbed out laughing, chatting like nothing had changed, like this was still their estate. I watched them through the lace curtain as they unloaded snacks, wine bottles, beach blankets. No one looked toward the house, no one imagined anything might be different. Until they reached the front door. Click, nothing. Erin frowned, tried her key again. Click, click, still locked. Alex, she called, half laughing. You got your key? Alex swaggered forward. Watch the master. He tried his, twisting a bit harder. Still nothing. Mom stepped up, suddenly tense. That's strange. This lock's always worked. I waited a beat longer, then stood. My heels tapped the old wooden floor, crisp and clean. I reached the door and opened it slowly. No drama, just a quiet kind of finality. 3 faces turned toward me, surprise rippling across each one like wind across still water. Violet? Mom blinked like she'd seen a ghost. What are you doing here? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Welcome to the Monterey estate, I said simply. Please come in. They stepped back, stunned. The awkward silence was almost theatrical. Erin was the first to break it. Wait a second, the locks, why won't our keys work? I stepped aside, letting the golden light of the house spill behind me. Because, I said, they're not supposed to. Her mouth opened, closed. I don't understand, Mom said carefully, voice dropping an octave. This house is no longer owned by the Spencer family, I said gently. It was listed 3 weeks ago. I bought it. Quietly. Legally, Mom staggered back a step like I'd struck her. You bought it? Erin repeated, incredulous. How? With what? Why? With equity from the Hanley merger, I said, walking to the living room table where I'd laid out the hotel folders. The deal closed last month, $400 million. I led the strategy and negotiations. Alex looked at me blankly. You mean you ran that? The one on CNBC? I nodded once. Erin blinked hard. Why didn't you tell anyone? I turned to face her, the sun framing me from behind. Because no one ever asked. Not once. Silence. Not dramatic, not explosive, just the absence of everything they'd never said. I slid the folder across the table. I've reserved the entire top floor at the Reverend Hotel. Private suites, kids zone, a curated gallery wall if you'd like to hang your beloved family photos. Mom picked up her envelope with trembling hands, eyes darting over the gold room key inside. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Erin swallowed hard. So, what now? Are we still having the reunion here? I met her gaze, steady and calm. No, I said. From now on, this house operates under a different standard. If you want to gather here, you'll need permission from the legal owner. Alex let out a half scoff, half laugh. You're really doing this? No, I replied. I already did it. He stared at the keycard in his hand like it might explode. Mom sat down slowly on the edge of the couch, the same place she used to arrange seating charts, choose floral centerpieces, decide who mattered. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know. No, I said, softer now. You didn't want to. Erin stepped forward, her voice quieter than I'd ever heard it. Whatever else, you did it, Vi. You made it. You outgrew all of us. I shook my head. I didn't want to outgrow you. I just wanted to be treated like part of this family. No one responded, not right away, and that was fine. I didn't need them to fill the silence. I had already done the work of healing what they broke. I handed Alex a small folder. You're staying in room 401, Ocean View. If you need startup advice, include a business plan this time. He opened his mouth to respond, then thought better of it and simply nodded. Erin looked like she might cry, but didn't. She just took her folder and said, "Thank you." And Mom just sat there, her fingers tightening around the keycard, as if realizing what she had lost couldn't be unlocked again so easily. I walked them to the door, no anger, no triumph, just stillness. As they stepped outside and drove toward the hotel, toward the reunion that would now happen without me, I stood on the porch of the home they once used to remind me I didn't belong. And for the first time in my life, it felt like mine. That evening, as the sun dipped into the Pacific, I sat alone on the balcony with a cup of green tea, watching the tide roll in with the same rhythm it had for decades. Nothing had changed. And yet, everything had. The Monterey estate no longer made me feel small. It felt like space, mine. No expectations, no performances, no strategic seat at the end of the table, just stillness. At 7:48 p.m. the gate buzzed again. I wasn't expecting anyone. I thought maybe the renovation team had come early to assess the back porch. But when I glanced at the monitor, it was her. Mom, alone, no suitcase, no coat, just a small wooden box cradled in both hands like something fragile. I opened the door. We stood there for a moment, neither of us speaking. I'm not here to ask for anything, she said, voice raw. I have something I think you should keep. She handed me the box. It was old, oak, worn at the corners, but polished with care. I lifted the lid slowly. Inside were yellowed clippings, folded carefully. Young Executive Leads record-breaking investment deal. The woman behind Brookwell's Rise. Top 35 under 35. Next to them, my college transcripts. A Wharton MBA graduation invite. A photo of me standing beside my thesis advisor holding the award for Best Strategic Paper of the Year. I thought you didn't care, I said quietly. She didn't look at me, just kept her eyes on the box. I thought so too, she murmured. But every time I saw your name somewhere, I cut it out. I don't know why, habit, maybe, or hope. I wanted to ask why she never said anything. Why she let me sit in silence for years while others were praised for less. But I already knew. She answered the question without me asking. I told myself you didn't need me, she whispered. That you'd gone too far, too high, that you'd succeed without me. I was afraid you didn't want us anymore. I exhaled slow and long. And so you said nothing, I said. You stayed silent. She nodded. I was wrong. The air between us was thick. Not with resentment, not with blame. Just with years, decades, lost chances. She looked up at me finally, eyes glassy. You don't have to forgive me now, I just wanted you to know I've been watching, even when I said nothing. I didn't respond. Not with words, I simply stepped aside. "Come in," I said. "There's tea." She entered slowly, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Not because of her age, but because the weight she used to carry, authority, control, certainty, had slipped from her shoulders. That night, we didn't talk about the past. We just were. Two women. Two generations. Sitting in a kitchen where once I wasn't allowed to stay for long. 3 hours later, the gate buzzed again. I expected more silence, maybe Alex with another idea he thought I should fund, but it wasn't him. It was Aaron. And Nelson. No designer coats, no big hair, no curated energy. Aaron wore jeans and a simple blouse, hair tied back, no makeup. In her hands was a book and an iced tea. "You still like reading on the balcony?" she asked, her voice soft. "I remember you always sat there with your feet curled up and a novel in hand." She held out the drink. "Nelson said I should bring tea." He followed, awkward as ever, with a laptop and a manila folder. "I'm not here to pitch anything," he said quickly. "Not unless you ask. I enrolled in an online business course, just the intro, but if you're willing, I'd like your feedback." I stared at the two people who had symbolized everything I once thought I'd never have: recognition, equity, even kindness. Aaron smiled, tentative. "We're not here to fix everything tonight," she said. "We know one evening can't make up for years." I didn't speak, because I didn't need to say yes. Instead, I pulled out 2 more chairs. "Sit," I said. "Your tea's getting cold." We sat there as the sun slipped under the sea. 4 people, not quite healed, not quite whole, but no longer pretending. Inside me, something eased. Not quite forgiveness, but the beginning of trust. Sunday afternoon. The last golden light filtered through the Monterey windows, casting long, warm shadows across the wooden floors I used to tiptoe across as a child. My suitcase sat by the door, wheels aligned, passport tucked into the leather sleeve. My flight to Hong Kong was scheduled for 7:05 a.m. Monday morning. A new chapter awaited. Marina Bay, executive meetings, a skyline sharper than anything the West Coast had ever shown me. But this time I wasn't leaving to escape. I was simply moving forward on my terms. I stood at the old dining table, sorting the last of my documents, when I heard her voice again. "Do you have a moment?" I looked up. Mom stood at the threshold, no box in her hands this time, no speech ready on her tongue, just a softness in her face I'd never seen before. Not weakness, just truth without armor. I nodded. "Come in." She walked slowly to the table, sat across from me. Her eyes scanned the folders, the new corporate logo, the ticket confirmation. "You're really doing it," she said quietly. "All the way across the world." "I am." She looked out the window. "It's far," I smiled faintly. "It's also closer than you think if you want to be part of it." She turned back to me and for once didn't fill the space with conditions. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away," she said, "but if you'll allow it, I'd like to start again, from the beginning, on your terms." The words landed gently, like the first drops of rain after a long drought. I didn't rush to answer. Instead, I looked her in the eye and said slowly, "Then listen carefully." She nodded. "No more unspoken favoritism, no more dinners where I'm the placeholder, no more assumptions that I'll always be fine." "I understand," she whispered, "and I'll try to learn." The next knock was lighter. Erin stepped in, this time alone. In her hand, a folded tourist map, color-coded tabs peeking out like bookmarks. "I heard you're relocating," she said. "So, I marked some spots in Hong Kong. Not to control you, I promise," she added quickly, catching herself. "You once told me you wanted to see the world. I just wanted to contribute, if that's still okay." I took the map, opened it, saw her handwriting, delicate and neat, circling museums, bookstores, a noodle stall by the harbor. I looked up. "You can visit," I said. She blinked, almost surprised. "Really?" "Yes," I nodded. "As long as you come as a sister, not a supervisor." She laughed, a small, real sound. "A real sister," she said. "I think I'd like to try that." That night, for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, the family sat down to a simple meal. Nothing fancy, no catered trays, no structured seating plan, just us. Mom listened more than she spoke. Nelson shared a startup idea, this time backed by actual market research and a humble tone. "I'm not asking you to fund it," he said, holding up his hands, grinning, "but if you've got 10 minutes, I'd love a critique." I smiled, pulled out my iPad. "Send the deck. If it's serious, I'll treat it seriously." Erin helped wash dishes after. No assumptions, no performances. And me? I didn't shrink. I didn't soften to fit back into the family shape, I just was seen, heard, respected. Later on the balcony, I stood with a glass of water, watching the stars blink over the sea. Beside me, Mom joined with a gentle sigh. "Are you sure about this new life?" she asked. Not out of doubt, just a mother's quiet ache. "I'm sure," I said, "because this time I'm not leaving to prove anything. I'm leaving because I was chosen, because I chose." She nodded, then asked softly, "And the house?" I looked at it. "This old estate that once held my hurt. I'll rent it out seasonally," I said. "But if everyone truly tries, if we keep showing up for each other, I'm open to reserving one summer each year for reunion." She looked at me like she couldn't believe I was offering that. "Really?" I turned toward her, firm but kind. "With one condition. We rotate who hosts. Everyone contributes. No more showing up just for the photos." She laughed, tears glimmering at the edges. "Then I guess I'll have to relearn how to bake from scratch." I smiled, remembering the woman she used to be, and the one she might still become. The next morning, as my taxi pulled away from the estate, I saw them on the porch. Aaron and Nelson waving, Mom holding up a hand-painted sign that read in uneven brushstrokes, "Good luck, Violet." I didn't cry, not from sadness, only from knowing, for the first time I wasn't running away from the past. I was walking toward the future, and this time I was ready. The air in Singapore was heavier than Monterey, dense with motion, ambition, and the scent of rain-soaked pavement. From the 42nd floor of my new apartment in Marina Bay, I could see ships crossing the harbor like silent intentions, gliding without fanfare but with purpose. It had only been a week, and yet everything had shifted. My mornings began earlier now. Conference calls across time zones, board sessions with partners in Tokyo, Seoul, Sydney. My title was longer, the stakes higher, but for once, it didn't feel like I was performing. It felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be. At 11:03 a.m., just after a product integration meeting with the team from Jakarta, I received the email. Subject, Week 1 Challenge. From Nelson Spencer. I hesitated. My cursor hovered over the subject line. Then I clicked. "Hey Vi, attached is the updated business plan. This time, I wrote it not to impress anyone, but because I actually want to learn. Thanks for giving me the chance, N." The attachment loaded slowly, a clean, well-thought-out pitch for a sustainable logistics model. No fluff, real numbers, and effort. Something shifted in my chest. I opened the document, added a few comments, and sent it back with a short note. "It's never too late to begin again, if you're sincere." I thought that would be the quiet highlight of my day, but at 2:47 p.m. my Singapore number buzzed again. "Aaron." I almost didn't answer. Not out of bitterness, but because the version of her I'd always known wasn't someone who reached out without a reason. But I was wrong. "Hi," she said. Her voice sounded different, less rehearsed. "Hi," I replied, leaning back against the glass wall. "I'm in New York for a short leadership course," she said. "Not to one-up you, I promise." I smiled. "Didn't think you were." A pause. "I'll be in Hong Kong next month," she continued. "Thought I'd stop by, not to teach, not to critique, just to learn, if that's okay." I looked out at the sea, choppy, sunlit. "It's okay," I said. "I'd like that." She hesitated. "Really?" For the first time in a long time, I said, "Yes." After we hung up, I sat in stillness. There was no apology in her words, but there was something better, intention, presence. Maybe, finally, humility. I thought that would be the last surprise, but the universe, it seemed, had more. That evening, while replying to partnership queries, another message came through. Sender, Mom subject. "Just wanted to show you something." There was no text, only a photo. It was the old keepsake box, now placed on a family altar. Beside it, a new family portrait taken at the Reverend Hotel reunion. Everyone was there. Aaron, Nelson, even the kids. At the bottom of the frame was a small handwritten card in careful, almost childlike script. "Family is where you don't have to be perfect to be loved." I didn't cry, but my eyes burned, because, through all the years of being left out, all I had ever wanted was exactly that. Not perfection, just to matter, as I was. I poured myself a cup of tea, the kind Mom used to make with slices of orange peel and too much honey. I took it to the window, watching the lights of Singapore flicker like fireflies caught in glass. For years, I believed success was about rising above. But now I understood. True success is about reclaiming your place with peace. It's about healing without begging. Setting boundaries without burning bridges. Forgiveness wasn't weakness. It was strength measured in silence and choice. I didn't need them to worship my title. I only needed them to walk beside me, not ahead or behind. And maybe, just maybe, they were starting to. As I closed my laptop and turned out the lights, I whispered, not to anyone, but to the night itself, "This is what it feels like to come home to yourself." The next morning, Singapore woke under a soft drizzle. The city didn't pause. The trains still rushed beneath glass towers. The markets opened like clockwork, and the scent of kaya toast drifted from the cafes near my apartment. Everything moved. So did I. But now, I moved with stillness inside me. At 8 a.m., I stepped out of the elevator into the gleaming marble lobby of Kowloon Tower, my new headquarters. A few reporters waited outside for the weekly executive briefing. I had grown used to the cameras, to the questions. But today, one of them, young, curious, stepped forward, holding out a recorder. "Miss Violet," she asked, slightly breathless, "what would you say is your greatest success so far?" I paused. A dozen answers came to mind. The Hanley merger, my international promotion, the estate, but none of them felt whole, so I looked at her and simply said that I didn't lose myself. She blinked, then smiled. "That's tomorrow's headline." I shrugged. "It's today's truth." As I walked past her and into the glass tower, I saw my reflection stretch beside me, tall, grounded, unshaken. Not hardened, not bitter, just real. That night, I sat on the balcony of my Marina Bay apartment with a bowl of soup and a quiet heart. I thought about all the versions of me that once waited for something. The girl who did the dishes while Aaron decorated. The college student who sent updates no one read. The executive who flew cross-country just to be invisible at a birthday party. I thought about her. I loved her. But I wasn't her anymore. That Violet used to believe that success would earn her belonging. Now, I understood the truth. Belonging isn't earned through titles. It's claimed by choosing spaces that see you, or by building them from the ground up when no one else will. I thought of Nelson's message. "Thanks for giving me the chance." Aaron's voice. "I just wanted to contribute if I could." Mom's note. "Family is where you don't have to be perfect to be loved." Those weren't apologies, they were invitations.